What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if this is your first time, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like for me. I greatly appreciate it. Oh yeah, and follow me on Instagram too if you want. It's where I post all my content. But today, guys, I'm showing you a really easy step-by-step tutorial on how to draw Yoshi from Mario, of course. Hopefully this is going to be super simple, but it's, like I always say in all my videos, it's all about layering. Before it's going to look really sloppy and messy as you sketch it out initially, but by the end, by your final layer, it should look nice and crispy and nice and vibrant. Alright, so first off, get a sketch. I can't really walk you through how to sketch because everyone has like a different approach to that. I can show you my solidified lines with black marker, but the best tip I could give you in approaching your sketch is just to take your time, take the most time on this step and go over it multiple times. You don't want hard, black, frigid lines on your sketch, So just look at the shapes that you see and try to get those shapes perfect. For example, Yoshi's nose. If it's too small or if it's too large, it won't look proportional to the rest of the body. So sketching is all about kind of finding the correct line that emulates your reference, if that makes sense. So I'm not trying to like rely on one soft black pencil line. I'm going back and forth over and over again and constantly, retracing darker over areas that look proportionally sound and erasing and kind of going over other areas that look warped or not right. So it takes me forever sometimes, but definitely spend the most time on this step. Then basically once you get your pencil sketch down, you've found your proportions, it's dark enough for you to actually trace over it. Take something round, or if you have one of those little tracers, or maybe a bottom of a coffee cup or anything round, and just kind of trace over your pencil with the marker. I'm using a 0.1. I think that's the smallest you can get, yeah, or maybe not. I think it goes smaller, but it's pretty small. And this is just so I'm not over committing to my black lines yet. Like if I want to make adjustments, I can still do that with a thicker line. So this is just the second layer. Like you don't want to just go in straight up with the thick. This kind of provides like a sense of security so that you can be extra sure when you go over it a third time, it's gonna be right. You know what I mean? Alright, so yeah, the first step is to draw a circle. Get whatever you can and trace that circle. Try to get it as perfect as you can. This is actually harder than it looks, trust me. And then kind of from the bottom of the circle, you have the little arch there, kind of simulating the cheek. Connected from that arch, I just draw a little eye, a second eye. It's almost like a W or an M. But just try to stay as close to my proportions as you can. Pause the video if you want. I recommend that. And just stay as close to my proportions as you can. Next, we have to draw the eye. Make the eye slightly above, his big round nose or whatever. And I always like to leave like a little small white spot in the middle of the eye so that it, gives it like a small tidbit of realism. Almost like, it's a real eyeball, but it's not. But it just looks more plain when it's all filled in black. So leave a little bit of white there. And yeah, there you go. Alright, now let's draw the top of the head. Well, is that his eyebrows or the top of his head? That's a toughie. That's a hard one. But just do basically another M up and around, slightly curved, back down, and then stop there because we're going to connect his cheek. So again, if this is too fast for you, just pause the video and just look strictly at my shapes and the lines and where they meet at and how far away they are from other lines. Like that's literally how I figure out what the proportions should be in a nutshell. Alright, so the cheek back and around, kind of like a distorted C. Alright, next, shoulder. I believe, yes. Angle over, down, and just follow it all the way down, kind of where the knee is, and then start to draw the fingers. Now fingers are hard, y'all. Be easy on yourself. Fingers and fists and hands, and it's difficult. I struggle with it every day. So just take your time with it and just try to kind of follow my lines here and just work it. If you don't want to use my hands, you don't have to. You You can use different fingers or a different fist. Use a different image reference or whatever you want. But that is that. All right, now I'm outlining the tip of his little shell there on his back. Now I'm gonna go and give him some nostrils. Don't make him too far down or he'll look weird. It's gotta be like right there, just above the top, slightly, in the upper left quadrant of that circle there. All right, so we gotta do my man Yoshi right, and we gotta give him his little spines. So make them a little warped. They're not like, there's no perfect curvature there. Just make a little warped. And then on to the other arm, and make sure you get the arm proportion right. If his hand is too big, it's gonna look awkward. It's gonna look like, man, Yoshi, why is your arm so big, my guy? So follow that down the belly, get a nice curve. It's like I was gonna say a C, but that's not a C at all. That's just a curved belly. Just see the line that I made there, and then continue back onto the hand, giving it that nice like alien finger appearance, like a slight dip in the middle, and then kind of like balled up at the end, like frog fingers. You know what I'm trying to say, man? The frog fingers. What is he's a dragon, right? Yoshi the dragon? I don't know, man, but I love him. It's my favorite thing to jump on him and just decimate people. Anyway, okay, let's get that shell drawn. So from the back side, from the tip of the shell, making like not a perfect curved C. I don't even know what I keep calling these, like C's. Like I'm obsessed with the letter C. A curve. Like how else can I explain that? Draw a curve and then draw his tail, which is just up, slight point, a little bit rounded, and then just, there you go, another curve. So it's all about shapes, y'all. It's all about shapes and lines and yeah, basically. Okay, so rounded at the top of the boot, and then going around, excuse me, and giving them some tail action. Once again, feel free to pause the video to get these lines right. But now, just finishing off the second layer outline. Again, this is with a 0.1 fine liner, Copic fine liner, just to make sure that my lines are solid before I actually give it the good old razzle dazzle with the Sharpie. You know what I mean? Alright, so now I'm going to take my putty eraser that I really love, and I'm going to just basically erase my sketch. Don't have to worry about that anymore. The only thing the sketch is doing for me now is, maybe causing my outline to smudge or kind of misdirect my Sharpie. You know how when sometimes, there's like little pencil indentation in the page, it can kind of throw off your liner. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. But there is Yoshi. That is the second stage. First stage is sketch, second stage is nailing the proportions with a small fine liner. Now I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to give him some life. Alright, jumping ahead a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and outline this again with Sharpie. I've said this in previous videos, you don't need a super pricey liner at all. Sharpie's perfect, and I find that it's like the most permanent. I don't find that Sharpie smudges really at all. Even with that pesky yellow color, you feel me? Alright, now get you 2 or 3 shades. If you're using alcohol markers, I recommend it. If you're not, I recommend dropping what you have and getting some alcohol markers. Pick 3 similar shades of green. Most sets come like numerically or alphabetically in order. So just like, mine is like G1, a G3, and like a G6. And now I'm just going to show you exactly how I layer this. So I'm doing the same approach I always take in every single alcohol marker illustration. I do the way I would explain it is like a 1-2-1 method. So if we think of colors as numerical, then we would do like the lightest colors 1 and the darkest colors 2. I start off and I basically color the whole thing with the lightest color, which is 1. Then toward the back of an object or a figure, I'll use a darker color, which is 2, and then I'll blend out the seam with 1 again. So it's 1, 2, 1, and I just kind of do that over and over again. Alright, skipping ahead a little bit so that you can actually see. I work in elongated circles, not back and forth, left and right, or like in circles elongated circles, if that makes sense. And as you can see, the 1-2 method, or the 1-2-1 method there, started out, the lightest green is in the center, and there's even like two little white dots there to kind of emulate like a reflection there of light. And then on the outside is my darker color. And pretty much I did my best to blend out that seam there, but as you can tell, it's not too hard to get that effect. I'm just going for like a three-dimensional effect. So I'm taking a darker color, going on the outside of the figure, and then the lighter color, blending it in toward the center so that it looks like there's actual dimension. You know what I mean? I don't want it to just be one flat green, because then I don't know, it won't look dimensional. I can talk, English is hard. So just repeat this approach on the top of his head there and his eyebrows. I still haven't determined if those are eyebrows or the top of his head. Could be both. But yeah, dark on the outsides, on the insides, and blend it out with the lighter color. You don't even have to use more than 2 colors, guys. If you actually want to check out the previous video I showed, or I did, where I only used 2 colors, I'm showing you guys how to blend with just 2 colors. It's right here on the screen. Click. God, I can't talk today. Click that link and go watch that if you want to. Alright, now let's give it some red. Let's give his back spikes some red in the top of his shell. I love working with the red, like different shades of red and pink, because they blend together really easily. Some shades don't blend as easily, so you know, it can be a little annoying, but I love and I know which colors blend well, especially my red tones. So same thing, 1-2-1 method. The light red is my 1, the dark red is my 2. I go over the whole thing with 1, and then I take my 2, I go over the outsides of the figure, of the, you know, the outsides of the little spikes, and then I blend it out with 1. It's pretty much that simple. It's all about finessing it and getting the technique down and like the muscle memory behind it, kind of. But as you practice, you'll get better. And I'm just, you know, I'm going over my lines again, because with alcohol markers, once the ink dries, then you can add another layer and it could potentially get darker. Now sometimes you know, you can't continue to go darker, because obviously you'll get to the darkest shade you can get with that tone. But if you really utilize your markers in this way, you can get really vibrant, contrasting tones. So don't ever think that like 1 layer is enough. Go over your work and don't be afraid to like saturate it. Also make sure you're using the right paper, you know what I mean? I'm using the Spectrum Noir cardstock paper. Kind of has like a glossy feel to it, so that the colors kind of sit on the surface, if that makes sense. It doesn't like soak too much into the fibers of the page. It kind of sits on the surface so that you can manipulate it better, and so that it blends together better. But you know, man, work in small little fine circles. Take your absolute time with the coloring, because it's the best part is when you get, you know you have the outline. I said this in previous videos, but if your color comes out like saturated, or not saturated, but like splotchy or streaky, or it's like inconsistent, you know what I mean, go back over it in small elongated circles. Like I say, go back over it until it's one flat tone, and then blend your darker tone into it, and then blend your light tone back into it. Because let's say that you color in your first flat layer and it's not completely like the darkest tone. You put like 1 layer and you're good with that. If you go in with the second layer, the darker tone, right, and then you try to blend it back in with the first layer, it's going to give you this like weird lighter first layer, if that makes any sense. So just make sure, always take your time with that first one and get it completely flat before you try to blend. So I'm doing the same 1-2 approach, for the 1-2-1 rather approach, to give his boots some like curvature appearance, some dimension, you know. So pretty much the rule of thumb is, if you can wrap your hand around something, you know, like his nose, or pretty much any outer edge of his body, his shoes, it needs to have some kind of depth. Like a part of it needs to appear further away. So I went darker on the outer circle of his face there, on his nose, to make it obviously appear that it's like circular. You know what I mean? And the light source is in the center, indicated by the 2 little reflective little white spots there. And you can work dark to light or light to dark, kind of whatever suits you, as long as you kind of understand the dynamic of blending and how to get those flat, even tones, and how to, you know, make them unite as one. And as always, whenever I'm drawing a character, so it doesn't have like a background. I always pick like a really contrasting, vibrant color, and I go over the outskirts of the character and just fill it in, kind of like a silhouette of color. That made no sense, I don't think, but you know what I'm saying. I wanted to use a real vibrant pink to contrast with the green, so I thought it looked pretty dope after it was done. But that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna do anything extra, and there you have it. It is Yoshi. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please like the video if you liked it or learned anything. Dislike it if you disliked it. Comment down below. Let me know what you struggle with or if you took anything from this tutorial. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, peace.